Session 91, Surah Fatiha, the Qur'an summarized. Brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum. We begin with the name of Allah, who is most gracious and merciful. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu nusalli ala Rasulihil Kareem. And we begin with blessings on Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, the last and final prophet. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. O my Rabb, open my heart and ease my task. We continue with Surah Fatiha, verses 6 and 7. Sirat al-lazina anamta alayhim, ghairil maghzubi alayhim, waladdallin, Ameen. The path of those whom you have rewarded, not the ones who earned your annoyance, that is the Jews, nor those who went astray, that's the Christians. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. This is Surah Yasin, verse 83. فَسُبْحَانَ الَّذِي بِيَدِهِ مَلَكُوتُ كُلِّ شَيْءٍ وَإِلَيْهِ تُرْجَعُونَ. And when you know Allah creates man from a sperm, and when you know Allah creates man from a sperm, He'll re-raise him from calcinated bones, and whenever He desires anything to be, it is created all at once. Whenever He desires anything to be, it is created all at once. Glory be to Him in whose hands, metaphorically, is the kingdom of all the things, and to Him we shall all return. Everything was created by Allah, is controlled by Him, and remains perpetually, constantly moribund, nearing its end. Will go back to Him, all universes. Will go back to Him, all universes will be undone at the zero hour, reshaped thereafter as heaven and hell. I repeat, everything was created by Allah, is controlled by Him, and remains perpetually, constantly moribund, nearing its end. Will go back to Him. All universes will be undone at the zero hour, reshaped thereafter as heaven and hell. Man and his deeds would be immortal. Man and his deeds would be immortal. Evil would be transformed as permanent organs of torture. Evil will be transformed as permanent organs of torture for the disbelievers, and the good as eternal pleasures for the believers, and the good as eternal pleasures for the believers. The depraved, sinful believers shall be cleansed with the fire of hell, and having suffered the consequences of their evil deeds, be removed to heaven. 18 Surah Al-Kahf. I'll just give the meanings. Verse 103 to 105, the translation only. Ask them, O Prophet, should we tell you who are the most defeated, the doomed, as regards their deeds? Ask them, O Prophet, should we tell you who are the most defeated, the doomed as regards their deeds. Those who remained engrossed in worldly affairs and effectuated all their deeds to achieve their purposes, desires, and ends as per this world. And they thought they were doing everything right. And they thought they were doing everything right. These are the people who have refused to believe, refuted the signs of Allah, that is, prophets and scriptures, and didn't believe in the day of accountability, and didn't believe in the day of accountability. Thus, all their lifelong deeds are absolutely wasted. Thus, all their lifelong deeds are absolutely wasted. These will not even be weighed for consideration. Only the deeds for the pleasure of Allah and performed as per Sunnah shall carry weight. Only the deeds for the pleasure of Allah and performed as per Sunnah will carry weight. 38 Surah Al-Ahzab verse 31. وَمَنْ يَقْنُتْ مِنْكُنَّ لِلَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ وَتَعْمَلْ صَالِحًا وَتُؤْتِهَا أَجْرَهَا مَرَّتَيْنِ وَأَعْتَدْنَا لَهَا رِزْقًا كَرِيمًا. Translation. And those of you, wives of the Prophet, and those of you, addressing the wives of the Prophet, peace be upon him, who obey Allah and His Prophet and give a pious performance, shall be rewarded twofold for it. And we have earmarked a generous sustenance, respect, and dignity for her. Explanation. Many a girl's desirous of a respectable place in the family and the society for their education and qualifications get themselves disgraced through various types of bosses, people, and colleagues. I repeat, many girls desirous of a respectable place in the family and the society for their education and qualifications get themselves disgraced through various types of bosses, people, and colleagues. Allah and the Prophet, peace be upon him, are desirous that they please just one person at home, that is, the husband. But they now have to earn the pleasure of various categories of scoundrels. The wives of the Prophet, peace be upon him, the first addressees in this verse were well above all and sundry in piety, spiritual elevation. The women among the believers are unlike their non-believing mushrikeen counterparts. The women among the believers are unlike their non-believing mushrikeen counterparts. When they fear Allah, they don't converse with other men unnecessarily, and if they have to, they don't speak softly but indifferently and dryly to exude piety and faithfulness. It may be vexing, irritable for a moment, but prevents the man from engendering evil thoughts, designs, and carries long-term benefits for the entire society. In the first instance, the believing women are expected to remain in their houses most of the time. In the first instance, the believing women are expected to remain in their houses most of the time, only going out when necessary, unavoidable. The women in Islam, the women in Islam have not been made responsible to earn their to earn their living or support others. Allah and His Prophet have made the male duty-bound, responsible to sustain, look after, and meet all necessary requirements of the females in the family. Thus, a husband is responsible for his wife, a father for his daughter, and the brother to sustain, finance his sister who is without a father or husband. The son is directly responsible for everything as regards his mother and father, and the state becomes responsible for a woman without any earning male member to look after. That is an extremely rare case where a woman is without a father, husband, brother, or a son. And there is no other guardian too. If the husband dies, the court can't order the widow to pay his outstanding dues, loans, etc. But if the wife dies, the husband can be ordered to make the payment. A woman is thus to stay at home, going out when necessary, that is, for education and some errands if unavoidable. And when they have to go out, they are expected to cover their body well, especially the attractive portions of the body, exposing only the face if unavoidable, hands and feet. Hijab has been ordered for the women by Allah. And while going out, they must be in the company of a male member of the family, mahram, father or husband, brother or a son. But for exceptional circumstances, in Sharia court can't order a single woman alone to appear as a single witness. One of the reasons that female are not expected to be alone. Second, that they can't sustain witnessing a criminal offense. Lose their senses invariably with a great probability of fainting in the process. Thus, in the ordinary way, reliance is placed on evidence if two women have witnessed the episode, crime. Additionally, the Prophet, peace be upon him, gave a great deal of respect to the women. The Qur'an doesn't like women being molested, threatened, pestered, to be dragged around to the courts. Moreover, not all cases are decided instantly. Cases are stretched over a minimum of 3 to 4 years for multiple reasons in almost all the third world countries. Women have been saved many troubles, botherations, difficulties, inconveniences, and given tremendous respect, grace, and dignity by Allah and His Prophet. I repeat, women have been saved many troubles, botherations, difficulties, inconveniences, and given tremendous respect, grace, and dignity by Allah and His Prophet, peace be upon him. There is no dichotomy or paradox in Qur'an's concept of hijab. There is no dichotomy or paradox in Qur'an's concept of hijab. Whenever there came a fresh revelation, having addressed his male companions, the Prophet, peace be upon him, moved to a similar gathering of the women folk, recited, elaborated, and explained the injunctions to them. I repeat, whenever there came a fresh revelation, having addressed his male companions, the Prophet, peace be upon him, moved to a similar gathering of the women folk, recited, elaborated, and explained the injunctions to them, a repeat lecture instructions. The believers have failed to comprehend the importance in Sunnah as regards education in general and for the women in particular. I repeat that the believers have failed to comprehend the importance in Sunnah as regards education in general and for the women in particular. A girl can study any subject she likes, no restrictions at all on going to schools, colleges, universities, technical, specialized institutions at all. No restrictions whatsoever. The only restriction Quran ordains is to have separate institutions for the males and the females. The only restriction Quran ordains is to have separate institutions for the males and the females. It is not gender discrimination by any standard. I repeat, it is not gender discrimination by any standard. For example, if there are n number of universities in a city where boys and girls study together, it would be in the spirit of Quran to have half a number of universities for the girls and a similar number for the boys, depending on the proportion of girls and boys. For I repeat, if there are n number of universities in a city where boys and girls study together, it would be in the spirit of Quran to have half a number of universities for the girls and a similar number for the boys, depending on the proportion of girls and boys. In the history of mankind, Quran was the first to make the consent of the girl a priority for marriage. In the history of mankind, Quran was the first to make the consent of the girl a priority for marriage. Girls can't be forced to marry against their will. To give them a stonking, excellent start and make the marriage bloom right from the beginning and make the man conscious of his responsibility in this vital relationship, a gift from the bridegroom is a girl's Quranic right. Marriage can't be consummated unless he gives the gift or pays, or she consents to defer it to a time of her liking. The value of the gift is mutually decided and may vary from a few rupees, dollars, pounds to lakhs and millions, depending on the status of both and the ability of the man to give comfortably. Man is fallible. Man is fallible, makes mistakes in almost all fields of life, marriage being no exception. If the frictions, differences, problems become insuperable, not reconcilable, Allah and His Prophet, peace be upon him, have given a way to resolve the issue through an outside the court arrangement. The wife nominates, selects her representative, an elderly, experienced, trustworthy man from the family or a family friend, etc. And so does the husband to constitute an unofficial jury. All charges and countercharges, allegations and allegations, the genuine and the quirky, tricky entanglements analyzed, and the fault, shortcomings pinpointed and attributed, and all possible efforts made to give the marriage a fresh, new start. When repeated efforts fail to put the marriage back on the rails, the unofficial jury gets a divorce decided mutually involving some terms, conditions, etc., keeping the scars, the wounds, and emotional setbacks of both to the minimum. This is the Qur'an's way of resolving marriage disputes. This is the Qur'an's way of resolving marriage disputes. Of all things made permissible, Allah detests a divorce the most. Of all things made permissible, Allah detests a divorce the most. The believing women must offer regular prayers 5 times a day in their houses. And give zakah and keep obeying Allah and His Prophet, and give zakah and keep obeying Allah and His Prophet. Verse 33, Surah 33, Al-Azab, verse 35. إن المسلمين والمسلمات والمؤمنين والمؤمنات والقانتين والقانتات والصادقين والصادقات والصابرين والصابرات والخاشعين والخاشعات والمتصدقين والمتصدقات والصائمين والصائمات والحافظين فروجهم والحافظات الذاكرين الله كثيرا والذاكرات أعد الله لهم مغفرة وأجرا عظيما. The translation only. Definitely, Allah forgives and rewards extensively the Muslim men, those who have surrendered to the will of Allah, and the Muslim women having surrendered to the will of Allah, and the male faithful believers and the female faithful believers, and men subservient to Allah and to the Prophet, and women subservient to Allah and the Prophet, and the men who have proved the veracity, truthfulness of their commitment, faith, through their obedience to Allah and His Prophet, and the women who have proved the veracity, truthfulness of their commitment, faith, through their obedience of Allah and the Prophet, and the men who follow Allah and His Prophet under trying, difficult conditions and persevere, and women who follow Allah and His Prophet under trying, difficult conditions and persevere, and men who are humble, humane, forbearing, and women who are humble, humane, forbearing, and men who spend in the way of Allah magnanimously, and women who spend in the way of Allah magnanimously, and the men who fast, and the women who fast, and the men who refrain from fornication, adultery, and the women who refrain from fornication, adultery, and the men who remember Allah extensively, keep Allah in mind at all times, and keep Allah in mind at all times. And the men who remember Allah extensively, keep Allah in mind at all times and in all doings. And the women who remember Allah extensively, keep Allah in mind at all times and in all doings. Allah forgives all and rewards them extensively. Allah forgives all and rewards them extensively. 33 Surah Al-Azab, verse 44. Tahiyyatum yawma yalqawnahu salamun wa'adallahum ajran karima. Translation: On the day of their meeting, when the believers shall meet him, he shall greet them with salam, peace, blessings, and he has prepared for them a great reward with honor, grace, and dignity. I repeat, on the day of their meeting, when the believers shall meet him, Allah, he shall greet them with salam, peace, blessings, and he has prepared for them a great reward with honor, grace, and dignity. Explanation: We have sent a prophet, Muhammad, peace be upon him, who is a witness, who has seen the heaven and the punishment of hell being inflicted. He conveys the good news and also the news that scare people. He has seen everything on the empyreans, in the heavens, on the skies. Himself, he has seen everything on the empyreans, the heavens, and the skies himself. During Miraj, his accession to the skies in 619 AD. Prophet Jesus, Isa, son of Maryam, was also honored with ascension to the skies and shall be called back to complete his life here. All the Christians shall then become believers at his hands, who shall come as a part of the ummah of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and recite the kalama, La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, there is no God but him, and Muhammad is his prophet, the prophet of Allah, last and final. He replicate the faith of Muhammad. It would be a unipolar word, and Prophet Jesus Isa would rule a universal state of Islamic caliphate, wherein there will be no disbelievers. Qur'an and the believers honor Prophet Jesus far more than the disbelievers. The scapegrace, the incorrigible rogues who considered him crucified, the Jews, the faith implies God found no better way of scavenging, cleansing his mankind of all sins other than getting his son crucified. May the thought be cursed. And the Prophet ensembles the mankind towards Allah, and he is an effulgent, brilliant, bright, shining lamp, source of light for the entire mankind till the doomsday. That's all for today. Jazakallah, ex-Brigadier Mustansar Billah.